Hello my friends. Today let's talk about the big picture, or at least my 2 cents of it. A lot of the entertainment today is just about promoting Illuminati type messages, ideologies and behaviors. This has been done progressively in the last 100 years to slowly nudge us into their mindset, into a trap of moral relativism, mindless consumerism and Luciferian doctrine. By the use of corrupt art, corrupt news and corrupt advertisements, we have been slowly transformed into their image. From what used to be one national radio channel of propaganda that would play in the living room or in the kitchen, with horrible audio quality and distortion that made you to turn it off and listen to the birds instead, to now, where we have as many channels as we can count, all with pristine HD audio-visual quality that we can enjoy not only in our living room, but throughout the day in our smartphones. In the past, you could easily identify that one national propaganda station and turn it off. But now you have quite a selection of channels, all with different types of propaganda sponsored by mysterious shadow players. Not only that, but we have movies, music videos, video games and cartoons for the kids. If you follow the money, you'll find who sponsors them. And so you can see what political color they have and what ideologies they represent, but sometimes it gets blurry and you can't find anything in that regard. Other times it works. Like when I showed you how a bunch of publications that seemed completely unrelated are actually very related when it comes to who owns them and what rhetoric they promote. A company that owns a gaming website, a sport news website, a women's politics website, etc. and spews a very specific way of thinking throughout all these branches. The progressive feminist socialist etc. way of thinking. But oddly enough, it's sponsored and owned by a parent company that if you look at what else they invest in, you would say that they are very much capitalist investors. So then why are they sponsoring a biased anti-capitalist media conglomerate? If only their consumers who are anti-capitalists, anti-money and anti-accumulation of wealth would know who owns the stuff that they read. It's a very strange world. Don't get me wrong, there are mega corporations out there that prey upon the weak like vultures too, by buying their monopoly through the corrupt governments of the world. This is only one small example of what is happening in the mass media business. Different chain media conglomerates with their own flavor of brainwash. I should add that this different is not actually that different, but a carefully orchestrated machine to create a controllable chaos, from which the masters of this world have their order. Just like their old-school motto, order out of chaos says. But let's go back to the past to understand why this is all happening. Not so long ago, in 1776, a society was formed in Bavaria, known as the Illuminati. This society, with its leader Adam Weishaupt, collected a certain type of class in their ranks that shared similar values and aimed for similar goals. These were highly educated and wealthy men who considered themselves enlightened and who considered that they know what is best for the world. So for instance, they conspired to spread through Freemasonry around different countries in Europe and influence those countries politically to steer revolutions and change the world slowly into their image. So what was their major enemy? Well, the Catholic Church, for example, which still had significant control and power in Europe. These men were all intellectual, and they couldn't bow down to a conservative world that kept men away from technological and moral progress, or should I say regress. I'll have to add here that perhaps if I lived in that time, I'm sorry to say, but I would have probably agreed with them. I don't believe that Christianity should be merged with the state, in the sense that it can't enforce a way of life onto the people. If we do that, then we are no different than Saudi Arabia, where women have to wear hijabs and no one is allowed to buy or sell alcohol, etc. Because it's considered a sin. I personally believe that everyone can conduct themselves as they wish, and only after they die they will get judged only by God. So in other words, all of us are responsible for our actions, but we should be free to do our actions, and I think that's what God wants anyway. He wants us to freely choose Him and not forced to choose Him. I do believe that criminals should be put in prison because I'm not an anarchist. I think the state should exist and enable us to do our business and protect our freedoms and rights, but not force us to live in a certain way. So not a church dictatorship, but also not a progressive dictatorship. where if you don't celebrate LGBTQ or accept people's made-up pronouns, you are considered a very bad person and lose social credit points as well as your reputation. I may sound controversial for the conspiracy theory community, but I kind of approve of the first part of the Illuminati operation. What I don't approve is instead of freeing men, they actually steered them in a certain way of thinking in the second part of the operation, which was mainly successful in the last 100 years. So, yes, they did enable things like the French Revolution. In fact, the French Declaration of Human Rights clearly shares their symbolism with the all-seeing eye and the Ouroboros serpent. This is another part about the Illuminati that I dislike, the fact that they are full of esoteric symbolism, pagan and satanic symbolism. Why can't they just be a bunch of intellectuals that just free the world and let everyone think what they want? Why do they have to lure us into all these esoteric Eastern belief systems? Not only did they orchestrate the French Revolution, but they also orchestrated the forging of the great United States of America, the land of the free. And it was, until one point at least, but then slowly everyone was influenced with all the propaganda. Now there are other things that the Illuminati orchestrated, and even after they were banned from existence in Bavaria in 1785, there is heavy evidence to suggest that this type of Illuminati influence prevailed in the world. Their symbols are very popular, as well as the mentality they were promoting. I think that at the moment we are very close to the New World Order that they envisioned, where everyone thinks the same and will happily join the hive mind soon. By soon I mean within the next 100 years. You see, these people have time. A human life is short. We can do like 75 years on average and then we get really weak or lose our mind slowly and then we're done. But the Illuminati, they have time, as their plan is passed on to the next generation of initiated Illuminists. So as we live our life, we barely have time to even be conscious about the steps that were made in their plan. We already get born into the plan, so when we are kids we think that everything is normal, so at most we can see the things that are added on top by the plan, but that's it, we don't see the big picture. So here's the big picture. The Illuminati removed the control of church and established so-called free societies. Then they removed the guns from the citizens of these free states so that no one can rebel against the new governments, and pumped up media conglomerates to convince the people that they're free. Free to consume as much crap they want. Listen to garbage music, lazy written movies, low-quality news, and play dumbed-down video games in the modern world. Not only do you get a Neanderthal level of content, but it's also sprayed with a nice coat of propaganda on top to make sure that you walk on the right path. Also, don't let people get too rich, because if they do, they might have enough free time to realize the whole illusion, keep people in poverty. It's great. They only worry about what to put on the table, and when they do have free time, they will watch our stupid TV shows, news, or play a crappy game. But here's the thing, in their new part of the plan, they actually want to make something even worse, which is give equality to everyone. Sounds good because there's no homeless, but it's very bad in other ways, and it might disable our minds completely. The progress of media itself happened during the war. Radios and recording technology was developed better and better, so that faster military communication and data storage can be achieved. It was this whole USA versus Germany kind of progress. Well, of course, Germany was superior, and they only lost because it was surrounded from all front lines. Not even superior technology can help against that. After the Allies won the war, the USA tied all the Nazi top scientists with a rope and Operation Paperclip and held them like their own pets to help propulse USA's technological developments in rocket design. This act is questionable to this day. You take someone who was responsible for showering London in World War II with bombs and say, "Oh, you're okay, Mr. Werner von Braun. As long as you work for me, you can just tell the public that you weren't really a Nazi and that you were just forced to do those things. It's all good. They don't even have to know that you agreed with slave labor used in your Nazi factories." Throughout the 50s and 60s, the world was looking towards America, the land of the free. The land where amazing movies are made and where great products are built. The land where you can still own guns. And it's all true, Americans really built a lot of great things, such as great cars. They also got women to smoke way more, as it is known how Edward Bernays, the great advertisement pioneer who figured out how to psychologically manipulate people to buy stuff that they don't really need, through ads, went to the tobacco companies to tell them how they could make more money, and then went to the feminists to tell them how smoking more will be great progress to be more equal to men. All this great advancement. In the 60s, they got people with rock and roll and the hippie movement sponsored by the CIA itself to consume drugs like LSD and promote the use of drugs in general by the youth, listening to agents like Timothy Leary and Terence McKenna, etc. This was all done to tick 3 boxes, in my opinion. The first, the experimentation with drugs on human minds. Second, make lots of money with drugs because why not? And third, and the most important one, is the shift in mentality from a more conservative outlook and Christian moral society to one influenced by esoteric Eastern teachings and so-called freeing your mind. The rock bands of that time were the most popular music, and they all had esoteric symbolism and hand signs in their vinyl cover art that was directly related to Aleister Crowley or messages in their music promoting without them even knowing that it's Illuminati ideology. So, for instance, listen to John Lennon's lyrics in the song Imagine, where he is basically wishing that we had a world with no religion, living as one, and that there are many dreamers like him who dream the same thing. Yeah, perhaps the Illuminati were working at it since 1776, and sadly the hippie generation fell right into their plan. It is also in 1969 when Anton LaVey's Satanic Bible appeared, and then in 1972 the Satanic Rituals. People laugh about Satanism, but it does exist. People do ritual killings and everything. It was also in 1969 that the Manson family cult members happened. Manson was convicted of first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder for the deaths of 7 people, including the film actress Sharon Tate. The prosecution contended that while Manson never directly ordered the murders, his ideology constituted an overt act of conspiracy. Whether the internet is laughing it off or not, conspiracies do exist of all shapes and sizes. Around the same period of time, the MKUltra project was thriving, which was another CIA program designed to experiment on people with drugs, but also turn them into murderers on command through psychological manipulation and even heavy amounts of torture to reprogram a personality. According to Stephen Kinzer, the CIA project was a continuation of the work begun in the World War II era Japanese facilities and Nazi concentration camps on subduing and controlling human minds. Kinzer writes that MKUltra's use of mescaline and unwitting subjects was a practice that the Nazi doctors had begun in the camps at Auschwitz and Dachau. Kinzer gives evidence of the continuation of a Nazi agenda, citing that CIA's secret recruitment of Nazi torturers and vivisectionists to continue experimenting on thousands of subjects. So this ties in with their recruitment of scientists to further progress in technology, but this time they recruited doctors and tortioners to help in mind control projects. When they were exposed, CIA Director Richard Helms ordered all MKUltra files destroyed in 1973. However, again, there are reasons to believe that these projects continued, as can be seen due to the fact that MKUltra symbolism still exists and strange behaviors can still be witnessed in those who are suspected to be victims of this project from the celebrity world, coupled with mysterious deaths. Experimentation on humans and mind control projects happened also in Russia, China and other places, and this goes to show that they are not innocent or fighting against the New World Order, they are part of it. These people who run the world are very strange. They are into mind control, sex rituals and sacrifices. Uncoincidentally, Stanley Kubrick's death happened after he made the movie Eyes Wide Shut, which fictionally exposes how the elites of banking, entertainment and politics gather in a mansion where they do a bizarre sexual sacrifice ritual with a teenage girl. Also uncoincidentally, another movie maker in Italy, way before Stanley Kubrick, also dies after making a movie where he exposes how the Nazi elite gather in a mansion and do sex rituals with teenagers that involve all kinds of violence in the process. The film, although talks about the Nazi elites, actually inspires from a book with the same name from 1785, written by a French aristocrat, the Marquis de Sade, who became famous for his sexual perversions, involving sadism, violence, and his apologetic writings towards the subject. Now, it wouldn't surprise me if he was part of the Illuminati, as he was a nobleman from the exact same time when the Bavarian Illuminati was active. With the sexual liberation and mind-freeing operations in America's late 60s and 70s came also society's acceptance of all kinds of perversions, and the porn industry itself was thriving. Gone were the days of naked women in black and white pictures. Say hello to mainstream publications such as Playboy and later on actual explicit porn tapes. Playboy magazine was established in 1953, and in the 60s is when it truly shined, when it started to talk about LGBTQ rights and getting involved in feminist activities such as rallies against Miss America, because the Miss America beauty pageant was degrading women apparently. I guess explicitly getting women to show their parts in tons of issues is not degrading at all. Hey, in a way, I think I'm more of a fan of old school feminists. The new feminists are all against boobs showing or women looking hot in films. The feminists now are against the male gaze, but back then it was all about the male gaze. I'm just joking here, but do you see how it all ties in together? In the following decades, the weirdness got more and more mainstream, and to now, where me even saying that I don't want to celebrate LGBTQ or I don't enjoy looking at satanic symbolism and everything can get people to look at me as if I'm a relic from the Stone Age. Now it's all about celebration of diversity, equality, and perversion. And it's all a lie because, as we know, diversity is not about diversity but about collectivism and control. Equality is about putting everyone in a low-level, one-size-fits-all type society where everything is centralized, top-down, with perversion and satanic rituals are, well, simply bad for your health, mind and spirit. Take a look at it this way. God wants to unite your body with your mind and your spirit in harmony, so you can pass on to the afterlife in a close to pure vessel. The Illuminati system wants to pollute your body, mind and spirit, because they don't believe in a God. They believe in the Luciferian doctrine, which is split into two sections, one where they worship Satan and do all the rituals mixed in with perversions, and one where they are their own God, so they are trying to build a reality free from God, where they can do what they want, until eventually they build immortality, which is their final goal, either through biotechnology or digitally by uploading their consciousness into everlasting servers. This was also shown in a game called Talos Principle. They have been working in the last 100 years to get you to want what they want. I mean, I can give you examples of the normalization in entertainment of stuff that they like to do. You have, for instance, 50 Shades of Grey, which is a popular TV show that gets women to think how awesome a sadist, perversion-type relationship with a businessman can be. You have Lucifer TV show, which shows us how cool and charismatic Lucifer is, much cooler than Jesus, who is just some carpenter hanging out with sheep. You have the new and the most expensive show ever made, The Rings of Power, where men are weak and Galadriel is the strongest and bravest of all, and he's not even scratched by any of the obstacles. You have Wolfenstein, the video game series, which has now become like a feminism story. You have diversity and LGBTQ as the main topic of discussion at the Eurovision Song Contest and at world football competitions. I swear at this point in 10 years' time, football players will have to learn more about gender studies and white guilt than about how to play the game. They'll have to memorize all the rituals that need to be done before playing the game. Now they're wearing the LGBTQ captain armband and kneeling for BLM. So in the future, a sportsman will have to pay attention not only to the sports equipment items that they have to put on, but also the LGBTQ promotion items, and who knows what else they will invent. The video games all have the possibility for you to have a gay relationship if you want. So I will mention Fallout 4 and Assassin's Creed Valhalla. In the recent FIFA football game, they also went up a notch, where they mix men and women in a football match game called Pro Clubs, or have black people appear in the staff or as spectators for a team and career mode, even if, for example, I'm playing in the Romanian league, where this is realistically impossible. I happily accept any immigrants in my country. I have African students or people from Muslim countries studying here, etc. I don't have any problems with them at all. This is not about them. This is about how the forced diversity movement represents them badly. It's like they are the racist ones for doing this job so poor. Think of it this way. If there is a band of musicians playing in the metro and they're all white, if you take a video of them and make a film that you post on the internet about it, people will probably say things like, your film is not diverse enough. Or maybe they won't. But if you make a movie that has a band with only white members, you'll get ordered to make that band more racially diverse. Which to me is ridiculous, because is it not possible for a music band to have entirely white members? It makes no sense. I believe that people and writers should be natural. Allow stories to happen naturally. Don't force characters or ideology into everything. They're taking white male superheroes and turning them into woman or black. Superman's son is bisexual now. We have black dwarves now and black elves in Lord of the Rings. Listen, I'm not an asshole. Many members of these groups don't like what is happening and how they are being used or treated like victims all the time. One black guy in particular on YouTube, a popular comic book enthusiast, said how he can identify with both black and white superhero characters. He told people that blacks can identify with white characters and whites can identify with black characters. Because when we talk about superheroes, we like them because of the values that we share with them. And that's it. We don't need to virtue signal by race swapping characters, and I fully agree. But let's get to some deeper stuff. There are games like Skyrim that give us the choice to do pagan rituals and sacrificial rituals and cannibal rituals to obtain certain special weapons and items. There are games where they tell us how mind control is done, MKUltra style, but not in a way that exposes what the governments have done, but in a subliminal way, almost as if people who write these games are from the Illuminati themselves and pass messages to themselves. So I will mention here the Evil Within, which is full of all-seeing eye symbolism, as well as the checkerboard floor. Far Cry 4 has you in this alternate reality where people murder themselves surrounded by butterflies and voices that tell them what to do. These elements are not alone to prove anything, but you'll have to watch my old videos where I explain it in full. But what it boils down to is that the checkerboard floor, the pillars and the all-seeing eye relate to Freemasonry and the Illuminati, while the butterflies in a certain context with suicide or ritualistic killings or coupled with other Illuminati-type symbolism relate to the MKUltra mind control project. There are also games that are so violent and gloomy in nature that I refuse to play, like this game called Agony, where at one point you see a creature using babies as bricks and crushing them on top of each other to form a wall, and this is becoming a theme. For example, they crush a baby in Phil Tippett's stop-motion animation film called Mad God. It doesn't matter that these are deformed, monstrosity-type babies, it still makes you think of a baby. They still cry. It's just pure hell in my opinion. This is the next step in the Illuminati morality lesson that we're getting. In a film called A Serbian Film, we are introduced to the concept of newborn porn, which is too shocking to even think about. I bet the Illuminati do all that stuff, and step by step they are trying to groom us towards accepting pedophilia. We already see the beginnings of this brainwash in shows like Game of Thrones or House of Dragon, where there are all these old men having sex with really young women. It may make sense from a fictional history perspective, but do we really have to see it? Not only do we see it, but the way the scenes are constructed, it's almost like they built it so they make us want it. One only has to look towards real-life elite players like Epstein's Pedophile Island or into Pizzagate research to see the full rabbit hole when it comes to this. In entertainment, it's all happening. There was a point where it was a balanced spot, but now it's all exaggerated, very gory violence and sexual perversions of all kinds. You know, in a way, the people who were in their 70s and the 80s, it all seemed exaggerated back then too. But that's how they get us. They have all the time in the world to get us used to it. What was shocking before is not shocking now, and what's shocking now, it won't be shocking in the future. And at that point, we will be groomed enough to have the same mindset as Epstein and his elite clients. At one point in history, it was shocking to have an identity set for yourself, to be able to be registered by the state and to pay taxes to it. Because we got born in it, we thought it was normal, so we don't question it. That's how it works. Never question the government, not even when they take all your rights away and lock you up for 2 years, unless you take their injection. Then you have a little bit more rights. That was the cherry on top human experiment. And now we have a new experiment. It's called the war and economic collapse, to which I have to say this: when people love their obedience and love the fact that they will have blackouts in the middle of winter and cheer towards the government, is really scary to me. The same way it was creepy to me to see all those people clapping at the medical system during the pandemic, and those doctors and policemen dancing on TikTok and Twitter videos. That doesn't mean we need to be on Vladimir Putin's side. That guy is a KGB agent. Communism was not great, guys. It also brought poverty and blackouts and food rations. Russia also made their own injections, just like any large power. They are part of the same game. They had their own MKUltra type projects, like I said. They want money, power, and control over its impoverished people living in those grey, sad Soviet blocks. And now they're sending their men to get hypothermia in a World War I style French warfare, undergeared and underfed, and then a drone hovers over their head and bombs them. That's a sad way to die. It's really sad stuff. A young woman in Russia said that it's better quality of living to work at McDonald's in the United States than having a middle-class job in Russia. Tons of young people are leaving the country. Outside of St. Petersburg and Moscow, the situation of living is not that great in the motherland. The motherland that doesn't take care of its own people. Now, of course, NATO is shit. They invaded, just like Russia, countries like Libya, Iraq, and Afghanistan. They used anti-human rights substances in wars, like Agent Orange in Vietnam, which left not only the victims of that time crippled, but also their offspring. All kinds of dark shit with NATO and USA, but does that mean we flock towards Vladimir Putin and think that he is fighting against the New World Order? Not me. Sorry guys, I'm from Romania and we've had our share of Russian influence and authoritarian measures. But yes, the West is becoming more and more like Soviet Russia, so soon there will be no difference. Just choose your propaganda. Sputnik Putin News or CNN and all the brainwashed media conglomerates of the West. So far, I have to say I prefer the dictatorship of the West, and I'm not in the West-West, I'm in West-East. So we have our own individual corrupt form of it, but it allows me to do business still. I can own land and I am free to make this YouTube video and listen to music. In Soviet-influenced times, all music from the West or that had lyrics that could be interpreted as slightly against the government was banned. So all the rock groups and post-punk groups. A situation that could repeat itself if the world switches to a full socialist system. Notice how modern leftists treat what they don't like with bans and blocks because they call it hate speech, and there is no freedom of speech for hate speech in their mindset. I promote the idea of all speech is allowed as long as it's not criminal activities, like actual criminal, not make-believe criminal. For them you are a criminal if you hurt their feelings now. And this is where we segue into the Elon Musk rabbit hole. Is he good or bad? After all, he is the one responsible for innovations in brain implants, which is his solution to cope with the dangerous AI. He said, if you can't beat them, join them, on the Joe Rogan podcast. Really? He calls it the Neuralink, and he wants us to be able to think faster in the case we can't find jobs in the future where AI and robots will be better than us. However, what if someone is able to hack into your brain in the future? Are we gonna install the Elon Musk software updates to our brain every month just to feel safe? Your brain software updates and your vaccine updates? I don't know, man. A video game called Prey, which I covered, already predicted this kind of technology, except in that game it was called Neuromods. So maybe Elon played too much of this game, or the game shows what the Illuminati are doing through guys like Elon Musk. His former girlfriend, Grimes, also had Illuminati symbolism in her music videos, such as black goo combined with the all-seeing eye. In regards to Elon Musk's influence on social media, on one side he is good, because he took over Twitter, and now he is letting people who were banned unjustly, like Jordan Peterson or Donald Trump for instance, back onto the internet town square, as he calls it. That's all good, but what about Alex Jones, who was banned by all social media platforms and streaming services, all at the same time, as if they had a secret meeting about it, which proved again that on the internet there is only the illusion of freedom and options for posting your content, when in actuality these places are all in it together and they were able to decide to ban someone all at the same time, and all because of saying that the shooting was potentially a false flag to restrict more the American gun rights. But you know what Alex is like, yelling about America and the Civil War and Constitution, etc., and inflating it all for entertainment value, so that people can buy more of his super male vitality products. I mean, it's not a great image of a conspiracy theorist, but I don't think he should be banned for this. People are not babies, they can think for themselves and choose what information they follow. But that's where we come back to the main topic, the Illuminati. They don't like other information, only their own. They want you to become like them. We can't have alternatives or be derailed. We are one world with no religion, living in peace and obedience to the Illuminati. So we are no longer in servitude to the church, but to an occult secret society. Where's the progress and freedom in that? The Illuminati enlightened intellectual occultists forced the world just as restrictive as the one that they claimed was restrictive. So that's why I'm making these videos, because people think that these values that they follow are for freedom, and they are made by grassroots oppressed groups, when in actuality all these views and lifestyles are sponsored by the shadow elite, of which practices can be traced back to 1776, Adam Weishaupt, Marquis de Sade, but even before that with the Templars. The Templars initially worked for the Catholic Church, but then backstabbed it and forged their own way with new spiritual teachings from the East, some hidden knowledge from Temple of Solomon, and a lot of skill in making money, and the first banks were made by them. The Illuminati like to associate in many ways with the Templars. There is even a high-ranking Freemasonry which has to do with the Templars. They have been and still run the money through families like Rockefeller or Rothschilds, which means Red Shields. I can't pinpoint exactly as to what and how, but that's where you can read books like The 13 Bloodlines of the Illuminati, or read the writings of these degenerates yourself to see what they're about. Read Adam Weishaupt or Albert Pike and see how they like to think that we're all a bunch of chaotic sheep that need to be controlled by them. Read Aleister Crowley and Anton LaVey to find out about the occultism and Satanism that influenced our pop culture. See if you agree with it or not. All I did was listen to metal and play games. I still do. I know all the subgenres of metal and I still play games, but at least I am aware of the messages and where they come from and how to avoid them. I'm not saying you should stop playing your games, although it's probably better if you do, but I'm not able to, for instance. I keep getting bored easier by them and switch them around often, only to get more frustrated and annoyed by modern dumbed down game design with occult messages, but at least I realize what they are, and I wish that more of the gaming community would realize this. Same with movies and music videos. I have videos on this channel showing the occult symbolism of Travis Scott or Ariana Grande or Billie Eilish. It usually involves black goo fallen angel symbolism, which is not great to see, literal black magic rituals that their hundreds of millions of listeners have no idea what they are. They just think they're listening to the latest hits. So this is our reality. It's all messed up. If you've listened so far, let me know in the comments, because that's impressive. Through all this, keep your head up high and don't be afraid of who you are. And I'm not telling you this in the way that the Illuminati tell you, with all their slogans of be yourself and you can change the world on the t-shirts. When they, what they mean by that is to be yourself but like them. That's why there's another t-shirt pattern that people like to wear, which is obey. On the plus side, we have mainstream artists who are waking up and saying the truth, like Kanye West, although he can be all over the place when he explains something, and that's confusing to people. But that's how it is for us musicians. We are not scientists or priests or specialists, we just kinda say what's on our mind. I am at least glad that I am able to say more than a TikTok dumb video. This is what our culture level is at right now. How did we get from well-dressed individuals with respect for themselves and belief in God to this TikTok generation of moral deprivation? I tell you how, it was planned. We have a mass of idiots that listen to mumble rap that we can control, the Illuminati says. Hip-hop doesn't need lyrics anymore, it doesn't need passion. Yeah, let's get them to mumble some shit, says Sony Music. But yeah, Black Lives Matters. Black Lives Matters to them. Yeah, right, it's all corporate-controlled garbage. If it would really matter to them, they would let the black artists who have something to say to be on top of the charts. But no, we got mumble rap. Again, they are the racist ones. The fakeness is so easy to spot in all aspects when they put people to talk in front of us about climate change like Greta Thunberg to get us emotionally impressed so that we accept the future climate change taxes, or to make us buy electric cars. What electric cars when you've just said that there's an electricity crisis? Are you stupid? And then you've got Arnold being like, yeah, Greta Thunberg is an inspiration. We're going to terminate climate change. And Terminator is one of my favorite films, even though it was a little bit of transhumanism propaganda there, getting us to have feelings for machines. But let's go back to Greta Thunberg. Why is Obama inviting her to talk with him at dinner? On what weird, parallel, crazy version of this world do we live in? Anyway, I think I'm talking too much. In the end, I want you guys to not be afraid to express who you really are, even if you disagree with me. But if you resonate with what I say, let's talk about these things together. I invite you to write in the comments whatever is on your mind. What do you think about the Illuminatis? Where do they come from? And where are they heading? Or you can believe the top search results on Google and YouTube now, which will tell you that Illuminati doesn't exist anymore and that we should all seek professional help. They depict us as paranoid, fake news-fueled, tinfoil-wearing monkeys, who are also a danger to the world now because we dare to criticize the pandemic and the government's authoritarian measures. And guess what? China is having big protest against these measures and against the system too, by the way. But the Chinese won't care. They have a very rigid, draconian system. Kinda like Stalin's system if you take into account their concentration camps. Do you know that Stalin ordered the execution of people who are against the system or perceived to be against the system? It was a blacklist, and that list was very, very big. I'm talking hundreds of thousands. Stalin's shooting lists were the lists of extrajudicially accused persons submitted to the military collegium of the Supreme Court of the USSR. After the endorsement by Joseph Stalin and other members of the Politburo for issuing a verdict, typically execution by shooting, either by an individual or a firing squad. Official records put the total number of documented executions between 1937 and 1938 during the Soviet Great Purge at 681,692 people. Of these, around 44,000 had their sentences personally approved by Stalin or his closest aides, with Stalin's initials appearing on 357 of the lists. So am I paranoid, fake news fueled for thinking that in the future, if we get a super centralized system that doesn't allow dissent, could create another purge blacklist and claim that they do this for the greater good? They could easily dehumanize us, in fact they already are. And they are venerating those who are mentally challenged. They are the normal ones now. Worship the furries, down with the conspiracy theorists. We are under attack. And I am saying this with the calmest voice possible. I'm not a crazy man, I'm just like anybody else. I can relax, I make music, etc. But sometimes I think about this stuff, and I think it's healthy that we all do, and criticize the status quo in a calm manner. We shouldn't sleep though. We need to act on the values that we claim to have, and try to protect them in our families and society. I'm not so good at this, but I'm telling you because there is a chance that you might be able to do it better than me. In any case, I think that we should all put our thoughts out there because we still can do it. We can still change things in the battle of ideas. And here is another thing that is important for me to say. In my world, I would never purge those who are against me or lifestyles that I don't agree with. We are all humans and we're supposed to understand each other. Even if we disagree on things, let's not make illegal the things that we disagree with. Unless we're talking about murder or real harassment. I want freedom for everyone. And in the end, God will judge us on the other side according to our actions. That's how I think. We are not here to force you to be Christians. And at the same time, I expect from them the same thing. To not force everyone to think like them. The Illuminati and their influence was strong the last 100 years, so it seems like the world is heading towards that. But I still have hope to keep our world free, so that's why I make these videos. We need to realize the different types of Illuminati propaganda ASAP. Know where they're coming from and where they're heading. And since they're heading towards the hive mind of eternal doom and shut down all the people who are against that hive mind, I'm gonna fight against it. This was a very long rant here. I'm sorry, but you guys didn't hear from me for a long time. So I wanted to check in and let you guys know that I'm still here, fighting the good fight. And I make some music in the process, inspired by this dystopian system. So I'm not just spamming my music to you now. It's not about me. It's about what you're getting out of listening to it. So I make the sound of a dystopian system, but it's not all dark. There is still hope. Hopeful, post-apocalyptic music. If I was to describe it, we are the resistance, fighting against the machine. I'll put the link to my Bandcamp and Spotify in the description if you're interested in it. Also to my second channel, which is entirely about my music. I don't release music every week. I take my time to make sure that I get the organic details in that I want, with the various harmonies and automations. I put a lot of love in my music, so maybe you will resonate with it. So my friends, that's all I have to say. Take care of yourselves. Thanks for listening. This is Vostok Vlad, signing out.